In this video, we're going to be building this super cute little miniature Adirondack chair. And we're going to show you a couple of different projects we can do with this little chair. They're super easy to put together. Of course, we have the plans available. And this is one where I think the plans might actually benefit you. All of our plans are just $5 a piece. There's enough angles and dimensions in this one. You might want to consider getting the plans, but we'll try to give you all the dimensions and angles as we go. But the neat thing about this little chair is it's built the exact same way that we would build a full-size Adirondack chair. Now, I've got scrap fence picket material everywhere, and I save it for all these little projects. Okay. Now, as far as selling these, I like to get $15 out of these. Again, the material is basically free because we're using all scrap, and putting these together, especially if you're doing a bunch at a time, is really, really incredibly simple. So once you got the hang of it, you'll be able to pop these together really in just a matter of a few minutes, and people go crazy over these. Sometimes we'll drill a hole in the center of the seat and actually put in a little 3-inch, could be a fake plant like we have here, or we could put herbs or something. And again, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures at the end of the video of some of the different projects that we do with these. So definitely skip ahead if you want to see what we can do with these little chairs. I'll show you a couple of variations. All right, so now that you know what project we're doing, let's go ahead and take a look at cutting up the parts and putting this together. All right, let's talk parts. So again, we're using all of our scrap. I have so much of this fence picket scrap, which works perfect for this project and a bunch of other projects that we do with all this fence picket scrap. So all this is 5/8 material, and we're going to walk you through all the parts that we're going to need for this. We're going to need 1 inch wide and 1.5 inch wide. So let's start with our 1.5 inch wide. So these are our arms. They're 9.5 inches long, 1.5 inch wide. Obviously, we need 2 of them. This portion of the arm is 3/4 inch. Okay, so I just marked that on my board. Just use my jigsaw to make a little curve mark. I did come back from the tip back 5 inches and just kind of hand drew a little curve. Cut one, shape it perfectly the way you want it, and then use that as a template for the other. Of course, the plans have this layout already for you if you have the plans. Here, this middle piece is 9 inches long overall, and these 2 side pieces are 8.25. Again, all of this is 1.5 inch wide. So here we've used a 1.5 inch semicircle, and here we just rounded off the top. And again, if you want to use the templates in the plans and you have the plans, we have those in there, or you can just eyeball it however you want as far as the top goes. You could even just leave them all square if you wanted to. They don't have to be this shape. Now let's talk about all of our 1 inch pieces. Okay, so these are 1 inch wide pieces, and these 2 little guys are 2 inches long overall with a little 45-degree chamfer. Okay, then these 2 pieces are 4.5, and then we have 6 pieces that are 5 inches, and then these 2 become our legs. Those are 5.25, and then these 2 are our seat base, and they're 5.5 inches from that long point down here. This miter is 15 degrees. Now these are a little bit tricky. This one is 7 inches long, 1 inch wide, but it has a 15-degree bevel that we put on there with our table saw. And we did the same thing with this little guy, but he's only 3.75 inches long. Now, if you don't have a table saw, you can definitely still make this cut at that angle and that width using a skill saw. Okay, so if you don't know exactly how to do that, there's lots of videos online that will show you how to rip these little narrow boards with a skill saw. actually surprisingly easy. So if you don't have a table saw, you can still make those parts. Okay, now these here are 9.5 inches long. Okay, from long point to long point. Now this long point's been cut off, but so what I usually do is I will cut my board at 90 degree on both ends, 9.5 inches long. Then I'll come in here. This is a 30 degree miter, 30 degree miter, and then notice that this is a 90 degree angle. So what I do is after I cut my 30 here and 30 here, this dimension is about 3/4 of an inch. Now I don't measure that, I just eyeball it when I'm making these. But if you want to know what the exact dimension is, that is your exact dimension. Okay, so that's it for parts. And you can make, you know, tons of these, and you'll be surprised at how quickly this little chair comes together. It is super simple. Get the kids involved. I think the kids are like that. My kids definitely can. Mine are 14, 12, and 10. They can definitely handle this cordless Ryobi narrow crown stapler. We're using 1.25" staples and 1-inch staples for the assembly process. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to start by assembling our back. So we're going to take these 3 pieces and these 2 pieces and assemble our back using 1-inch staples. So I'll get that done and show you what that looks like. One thing to point out, I am using my narrow crown stapler, and certainly you could do the same thing with your brad nailer if you prefer using a brad nailer. Some people don't like to see these big little dimples that the staples make. For this project, it's meant to be rustic. I don't really mind it, so it's just something to keep in mind. So these are our 4.5-inch pieces. You can see what I did. I just lined up my 3 boards along the bottom here. I put in 1 staple on each side, and then spread these boards out just a little bit at the top, and then go ahead and put another staple in, and then go ahead and finish stapling that off. So now our chair is done here. Our chair back, that portion is done. So now I think what we'll do is we'll move on. We'll take our 5.5-inch pieces, and we need 1 5-inch piece. So that's going to go just like that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put those together, and then we're going to need this little fella, which is 3 3/4. So let me go ahead and put this on. Now keep in mind when we're doing this that this 5-inch piece caps our 2 seat supports here. Okay, so we don't want it, we don't want this. We don't want this on the inside like that. We need it like this. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that done, and then we'll move on. All right, so we have our 5-inch piece, our 5.5-inch pieces with our 15-degree miter, and then our little guy, 3 3/4. Now hopefully you can kind of see this in the profile. So this had a 15-degree bevel on it, so that goes flush to the top, and this kind of goes at an angle. You can see we have 1 1.25" staple holding all this together. That's what I use, 1 1/4" staples. Now certainly you could use 1 inch, but if you have the 1 1/4, I would suggest we go ahead and use that. Now for our seat top, we're just going to put 1 at the front flush, and then we're going to put on the back here, we're going to put 1 on the back flush. Then these guys are going to be evenly spaced in between. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that done, and then I'll show you what that looks like. All right, that's what your seat base should look like. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, again, we used all 1 1/4" staples for assembly. We've got 1 on each end, and then I ran a couple across the front here, and I guess I should go ahead and put a couple across the back, because we do have that horizontal piece where we could put a staple in that. So I will go ahead and add a couple staples there. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 5 1/4" inch pieces, And we're going to add those to the front of this. So the angle part is our back, and we're going to put our legs on. Okay. So in order to put our legs on, what we're going to do is from the top of our leg, we're going to measure down 1 3/8 inches, and that's where the top of our seat board is. Okay, so I'll mark that so we know where to place them on here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So what I did is I marked these at 1 3/8, as you can see, but I put a little tick mark on the side so that when we go to line it up, we can see. Let's see if I can get a good camera view. We line up that tick mark to the top of our seat board, and we can go ahead and put on our leg. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so you can see we've got 2 staples in here, and these are 1 1/4 staples. So we're going into our seat board, and then we're going into that front board on both sides. And then you can see how we use that little tick mark to line it up on our seat board. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, the next step will be connecting our rear leg. So it joins right here at the top, and then just kind of wherever it ends, it ends. Okay, so we're going to be using a combination of 1-inch staples and 1 1/4 staples. Let me get it attached, and then we'll go over that in more detail. Well, you can see it's definitely coming together, isn't it? So you can see we line this leg up right to the top of this front leg, and then here we've got 1 1/4. These two we have 1 inch, and this guy up top we have 1 1/4. Okay, so we just did that to both sides, and now we can take a look at putting on the back of our chair. So what we did is we took our back assembly and put it on the back side of our chair here, and we lined up the bottom of our back assembly to the bottom of our leg, roughly. And then you can see we have 3 staples going into that horizontal piece right here. And that does a pretty good job of holding our back. Now, once we get our arms in place and add a few more staples, that will help solidify our back, just like it would if we were building a full-size version of this. Okay, so the next step is to get our arms in place, and then we'll button everything up. So let me try to kind of explain what we did here. This part's a little bit tricky. It's not too bad though, but what we did is we took our arm piece. Now the overhang out front here is about 3/4 of an inch. And then, so this is flush. So we put 1 1/4 staple there. And then we just made sure that the arm, I just eyeballed this, that the arm looks square to us, okay? And you can see I drew a little mark, but I was actually off on that a little bit. But then over here, same thing. You can see I'm off a little bit too, but that's okay. This is what I said was square, okay? And so, so then this piece going across the back here, once I found out exactly where these arms should be, you can see I have 3 staples. These are all 1 1/4 staples going into that horizontal bar. And then we come through the top, 1-inch staples, holding our arm to the bar, okay? And then we have our completed chair. Just like that. So, like I say, super simple project. You could put these together literally in a matter of minutes and make a bunch of these, and I promise you they'll sell. Now, what we can do is we can either drill a hole and stick a little 3-inch potted plant right in there, or you could just use that as a little shelf and just stick a plant on it, or a little doll, or whatever you wanted to. You know, it wouldn't matter how you use the chair. Now, we have a couple of other ideas that I am gonna do as well. So we've got our chair here. We could take a screw right up through the middle of this middle slat here, a long 3-inch screw, and then you could screw on corn on the cob, dried corn on the cob for the birds and the squirrels to come and eat off of if you wanted to. You could definitely attach this to a wall real easily. So the design was made so that the shelf would stay flat, as you could see. So if you wanted to put a little hole and just stick it on the side of your house or stick it on the side of your fence, the seat would still stay level. And that was the idea behind that. And that could be super cute. The other thing, I have a customer who does a lot of jelly and honey. And what we do for them, they do buy the individual chairs. We drill out a hole where that jar of honey or the jar of jelly would sit inside. And then, of course, then the customer could use it as a planter. You know, that's the idea behind that. But anyhow, we make a double. So we make 2 of these chairs with a table in the middle, and then we have room for 3 jars of honey or 3 jars of the jelly that they make. And then also you could repurpose that if you wanted to grow like cilantro or parsley or basil and have like a little herb planter set up as well. So lots of things that we can do with these little guys. Now the other thing too, in terms of marketing, we'll talk about that a little bit. I like to sell these for 15 because again, the wood cost is, you know, this is basically free. It's just a matter of labor, and labor isn't very much on these. These go together real quickly. But I have lots of little projects, little crates, other little chairs that I sell besides this style. So usually what I'll do is I sell them for 15, but if you buy two for 20, and then that usually they'll pick out another item, whether it be a crate or another little chair or whatever. Okay, so that's just some ideas on selling, and so that is your finished product. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Need to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my next goal. So please do subscribe, and thanks for watching. So there is your little finish Adirondack chair planters. These will absolutely be a great little seller for you too.